It is very much visible.
Perfect.
We can hear you.
Perfect. That's good. Myself, Dr. Balathandayuthabani. I did my bachelor's on agriculture, and then I went to Sweden to do my master's and PhD. I did my master's on sustainable development, and then I did my PhD in environmental science. I did research in boreal, subboreal, and in Arctic. I was keenly working on climate change. To put in a layman terms, like I look at how glacier melts and how polar bears gets affected, and these are all my research. In addition to that, later on my research career, I started a company called B&B Organics, where I sell like traditional rice, millets. Like I'm selling the highest number of rice varieties in India, like millet and sugar varieties. So I was doing these things since 2016. When I started selling like this type of traditional products, I started reading a lot of articles to know what I'm selling and how it affects people's health, and how we were living healthy before and things like that. So surprising, like my friend who is a scientist in Germany, like he told me that he's working on microplastics. He collect samples across different countries and look at like how microplastics affect the agriculture soil. So when I was speaking with him, he was telling how this plastics is affecting human and other creatures in the world. Recently, I was traveling from one city to another city, and I was watching throughout my travel, if there is any place like without like between 500 meters, I was looking if it is possible to find a place without plastic. Surprisingly, I couldn't find any place without plastic, like for a distance of at least 500 meters. The plastics are found almost like I was traveling around 6 hours. For the 6 hours, I found plastics everywhere. It was extremely disturbing because if you take microplastics, microplastics are nothing but the plastic that's broken down from the big plastic, and then microplastics are plastics that are less than 5 millimeter in diameter. So microplastics are everywhere now in the world. Now it reached Antarctica, it reached even uninhabited islands in the world. Like if you take some marine creatures in the deepest part of the ocean, you can find microplastics in the guts of it. Like if you see microplastics in the guts of marine animals, which lives in the deepest part of ocean, that means microplastic reached humans far more earlier. Like research says that microplastics are found in every bite we consume. Can you imagine that? Like it's if you say that we drink plastic, we eat plastic, we sleep on plastic. If you tell that to people, people are thinking that it's common. Actually, it's not. Like I'm just 37 years old. Like if you look at the plastics, I lived in village, then I moved to city. Until the age of 16, I did not use much plastic. Like when I go to shops, they give rice or everything in paper bottle. That's it. Like after the recent, I don't know, I couldn't give the exact years, but in the last 10 years, everything is packed on plastics, like rice, egg, everything. Before we go to shops, we take plastic bags. Now we switch everything to plastic. Like after my colleague who is working in Germany, he told that we started using plastic a lot. I was just analyzing on what are the ways we are using plastic. People use people mat to sleep. People use plastic chair to sit. People use plastic containers to store food, to store water. So we use almost plastics on everything. Like, do you know that 24.4 trillion fragments of microplastics are found on the upper region of ocean alone, just on the upper region. So if you take like European Union, they get like Europe, they get around 8 to 10 million tons of sewage sludge. Out of that, they use 40% of that as a fertilizer in their field. So they say that this sewage sludge is one of the biggest source of microplastics. In the UK, they say that in one sewage water treatment plant, they're getting around 6.5 billion microplastics every day. So like if you take, I lived in Sweden for a long time. Like in Sweden, they are very responsible in recycling waste. People take recycling as their responsibility. Like even in Europe, not only in Sweden, most of the European countries, they recycle the waste very well. But countries like in India, still now we are not taking responsibility of recycling the waste. So countries like us, I'm still really like I'm pretty shocked. Like if you take the microplastics effect on India, it will be tremendously higher. Like microplastics is not only reaching our blood samples or like our bodies. If you take microplastics, when it reaches the soil, it stays on the soil and then it leaches down the soil. And when it reaches down the soil, it affects earthworms. Earthworms are very important. What happens to the earthworms is it loses the weight. And then the most shocking thing is the microplastics, it breaks into nano size and then it enters the roots of the plants and then it reaches even like leaves. Like recent study found that apples found high microplastics. Like the most important thing is like roots. Microplastic reaches the roots quickly. So carrots has high microplastics. So now microplastics even entered the plants and we started consuming directly. Like it reaches the plants, it reaches the soil, it reaches the ocean, it presents in the fish. So like when we start thinking about it, we once we start getting news like that, we start wondering how it affects our health. Recent studies you can find even in BBC. They tested like it is a study conducted and they tested different human and found that 80% of human blood samples they tested contain plastic particles. So these plastics, when they reach the soil, they act as a vector for plants to consume more heavy metals like cadmium. We are talking about microplastics. Now we have to start worrying about the nanoplastics also, because when the microplastics they break down into nanoplastics, and it will be very easier for the nanoplastics to enter into the roots and into the leaves, because so far they say that when the nanoplastics, when they enter into the roots, they couldn't migrate too much into the leaves or in the fruits. They stay a lot in the roots. In future, like when there is more studies, they can find that it reaches on the fruits and the leaves also. Like the next thing we usually get is like how it affects our health system. These plastics can affect our endocrine system and the hormones that regulate our growth and development. That's the most important thing when it comes to health impacts. And usually, like now we relate everything to cancer, heart disease. Of course, this plastics also does that. Some studies analyze how these plastics can cause cell death. So scientists analyzed how these plastics kills the cells. So they found that the short age of the plastics and the uneven shape of the plastics cause huge cell death. And the other important thing is like these plastics are made up of harmful chemicals. These harmful chemicals also cause big impact on our health and also cause huge cell death. So when we say this, usually people ask, and now we are consuming like foods that's packed on plastic. So how we can get rid of this? In BNB Organics, we are, although I worry too much about plastic, I couldn't pack this rice or millets in a paper container or tin containers because the if you take the price of plastic pouch. It is just 1 kg plastic pouch is just 3 rupees. But if you take the paper pouch, it is 4 times more expensive than the plastic pouch. So when we increase the product price, customers start like, why are you increasing the product price and things like. It's a big problem for companies. They cannot increase, even if companies are interested to sell like product that's packed on paper or other things, people are not accepting because it's increased the product price. So if someone is requesting to send the product on paper pouch or some other like tin containers, we are doing that. But mostly we are doing on only plastic pouches because it is very cost effective. And if you want to reduce the like reduce the product price, there is no other way. And people are when more awareness comes about this plastic, then people may say that they are willing to pay for this type of packages. I think in future things may come like that. Like this is one way. Like when you go to shops now, more awareness are coming. People are saying to take cloth bags and things like it's very important. Previously we did it. Like I still remember whenever I go to shops in my early ages, I take cloth bags with me. That's what I did. Now we get more sophisticated and we are not taking that. I think it's because of lack of awareness. Like the other thing is like I try to avoid as much as plastic in my everyday life. Like if you take water filter, I don't know like in the other parts of India, but in Tamil Nadu everyone uses water filter to filter the water. So what I do is like I filter the water. There is a big container that comes with the water filter. The water gets filtered and stored in the plastic container that comes with the water filter. What I do is I don't allow to stay the water for a long time in the water filter. I usually have a copper vessel or a glass like 10 liters a glass vessel. I collect the water and immediately switch off the filter. So the water will not stay in the filter plastic filter container for a long time. That's what I do. Interestingly, I did one thing like the TDS of the water is very less when it gets filtered because this membranes filters out all the minerals and everything. When I store the water from the filter in the copper vessel, the TDS is increased. So it's a good thing. So you in this way you can prevent the water gets stored in the plastic water container for a long time. And another important thing is like recently I read that we believe that when we heat the plastics gets come into the food. That's true. But most of us don't know that when you store the food in the plastic container in the freezer, we often believe that plastics will not come into the food. It's not true. A lot of plastics leach into the food when you store the food in the refrigerator, like even in the freezer, the frost condition. So don't store food in the plastic container in the freezer. Try to use porcelain or some other things. Like most of us are not doing this. I believe that we are not using plastic bowls for microwave. Even if they say that it's microwavable, please don't do that because I'm a scientist. Like I often believe that when someone says this is safe or like this can be done or things like that, what I usually say is like, can you do a research on 20 years or 30 years to say that it's safe? We cannot say that. Like whatever the studies that we are doing, it's only for the past 3 years or 4 years. So it's better, like even if someone says that the plastic is safe to heat, please don't do that. It's end of the day, it's the plastic. So use porcelain or something like which is very safe. That's another way. And the most important thing is like never ever use plastic water bottle. You can just type in Google, you can get a lot of studies on that. It's extremely dangerous. And if you take carbonated beverages that comes on plastic, like, do you know how they transport it? They pack it in a plastic container and they put it in the truck. And the truck comes all the way. Most of the time, when they transport it inside the cities, they just transport it in the open air truck. It comes in the middle of the day with exposed to all the sunlight, and it's covered in the plastic. And you get more heat. The heat inside the bottle is like there is a plastic bottle, and out there will be 20 plastic bottles. Outside that they will put a tight plastic wrap. And when it's because of greenhouse effect, it will be more heat inside the plastic. So it will be exposed to all the heats, and then they come and they put it in the shop. Most of the shop, they just keep it in outside and then take it inside. So most of the time it is exposed to outside temperatures, which is very warm. So when it gets when you start drinking this carbonated beverages, which is in the plastic container, it's extremely not safe. Don't do that. And the plastic water bottles that we use is very thin. Like I use these plastic water bottles in Europe. That's very thick, but in India it's very thin. So there are a lot of studies came up. Like most of the studies found that the presence of microplastics in the water bottle. So don't use that. And actually, today I was very sick, but I don't want to skip this seminar. The reason why I want to give this seminar is because of the kids. Because my kid is 4 years old. She goes to school, and when I see some kids which is 4 years old, I see that they bring the water and food in plastic containers. I feel very bad. So I want to convey this. These chemicals that presence in the plastics that affects the growth and development of kids. We don't know that now. Maybe in the next 10 years, when there are a lot of studies comes up, you will come to know that how it affects the growth and development of the children. So I strongly advise not to give anything related to plastic to kids, because that can break down into microplastics and nanoplastics, and that can enter into the kid's body. And never store oil on plastics. That's not good at all. Never store salt. Never store spices. Make sure you don't store these items on plastics, and don't use plastics to take spices or salt. You may think that it's too much. We lived like this a long time before, not long time, at least 10 years before, and we switched to completely plastic dependent life. So please switch over to the life which we lived 10 years before. That's it. Not 100 years before, just 10 years before. My grandmother told me, like, she take gingerly oil, sesame oil, and she put it in a tin, and she store it in a dark room, and she takes it whenever it's needed, and she's put it in a porcelain container and she uses it. That's what she used. And now we are storing this gingerly oil, all the oils, in plastic containers, and we expose it to the normal outside temperatures when it's stored in the plastic container, which is not good. And I think some of you came across this article, this this plastic tea bags. This is extremely dangerous. There is an article. Huge amount of microplastics gets released because of this plastic tea bags. Now companies are changing it to like paper tea bags and things like that. But if you see tea bags with plastic, please don't use that because it releases huge amount of microplastics. If you, in case if you bought that, cut it out and take the tea, and there is different metal containers to put those tea dust, and you can extract the tea from that. But don't use this tea bags that comes with plastic. And like, use as much as biodegradable items. Like now there are so many startups came up with plastic without using plastics in the toothbrush, and so many ways. Initially, my wife is also a scientist, and I spoke to her about a lot. And initially, she didn't like it. Like, it is very like, we can convince the society. It's very difficult to convince our partner. Like, although she's a scientist, like, we both did our PhD together, and whenever I say some articles, and she'll come up with some other proof. So like we both have some strong arguments. And later she realized, like, the funniest thing is, like, when your partner find their mistake, they don't admit it, but they will start implementing their life cycle. And I started notice that with my wife. She stopped using plastic to store all kinds of food. Now in my house, we almost use plastic for everything, like to store foods. It's expensive, but we have to raise this question: are we going to pay for the plastic bottle containers now, or are we going to pay for the hospital later? Anyway, we are going to spend the money. That's the truth. We are going to save the money to spend it later. or we are going to spend the money now to lead a healthy life. That's it. So try to use as much as like bottles in your day-to-day life. Try to spend some time to like find how to store foods, because some foods has some special ways to store. Like we are using like plastic containers to store all foods. That's not true. We have to use different ways to store different foods. That's the truth, because like I said earlier, we use copper vessels to store water. When we transfer the water, which has less TDS, to the copper vessel, the TDS started increasing. That's really good, because that's how we stored water before. So, sorry. So that's how we stored food before and water before. So we have to analyze how we stored these foods and water before, and we have to switch over to that. And the other important thing is like start promote, just educate people how these plastics affect us. Like if you tell people like how this plastic affect marine animals or cow or dog or other creatures, people don't like that. That's pity. That's not good to the society. But initially start promoting how it affects the kids. Like instead of telling how it affects adults, if you convey how it affects kids, people like they start to hear, like listen it interestingly, because kids get affected very badly. There are so many research found that how it affects kids, and it affects the growth of the kids very badly. So first convey how it affects kids and how it affects adults, and then then convey how it affects the other creatures in the world. So people will start listening to it. My strong suggestion, not the best suggestion or better suggestion, my strong suggestion from today onwards, stop using plastics, because plastic reached almost everywhere in the planet. Like we say that God is everywhere, I would say plastic is everywhere. God may not present in some places, but plastics is present in every places in the world now. That's what science says. Plastics is everywhere, and it's the right time, like limiting the usage of plastics. Otherwise, we may face big issues because of these plastics. Thank you.
Dr. Balat?
Yes.
Do you want us to take the questions now?
Yes, please.
So friends, we are open for the questions. So if you have any questions related to microplastic or how to reduce it, you can, you're open for the questions. Please go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your questions.
So I'm Brinda here.
Yes.
I need to check with you. There are containers which are glass containers and plastic lids. A lot of glass bowls we get in the market. How do you avoid using them, or how could you replace it when you already have material in home with glass containers, but the lid is plastic? Thank you.
Yes. I buy containers which has a tin. Let me show you. I used to store ghee and nuts in this. This is tin and this is glass. But if you can't find anything like this, and if you can find only with plastics, go with it. At least the major part of the food particles is not in touch with the plastic. And the most important thing is, if you are buying any food with plastic, most of the food in the supermarkets are coming with plastic only. So once you get it to the home, immediately transfer it to the glass bottles or to the tins, or even to the pots that's made of clay.
Thank you. What about container water bottles? These disposable water bottles which are coming, one-time use plastic water bottles.
please don't buy that. Please don't buy, like sometimes people say that you drink it and throw it, but I
No, no.
don't like even.
My question is how to migrate from it, because now there are people who bring food, caterers, along with water bottles, which are in this one-time plastic. They supply water like that for all our people. How do we suggest that that be changed? What is the replacement in that?
Yeah, actually, that's a pretty good question. I have two solutions. Uh, One is expensive solution, another one is like a easy solution. One, I use like 2 to 3 liters of big containers, like made up of stainless steel, or I take it every time when I go. So that's one thing. And I, whenever I go out with my family, I use the big glass containers to store water. If I'm going to travel for 5 days, 6 days, what I do is like I bought a plastic, like it's a plastic water bottle that I bought in Denmark that can filter out whatever the harmful chemicals, that's virus or bacteria that is present in the water. What I used is I took the filter and I put it in the glass bottle. So like when I go outside, I don't buy this plastic water bottle, one time usage plastic water bottle, and just I collect the water from the hotels and then I put this filter and then I drink it. That's it. So this is how actually I practice this in my life after I came to India for the past 1 year. I'm not buying this one-time usage water bottle or anything. I even I feel completely thirsty, I just go to some hotels or drink the water that's in the hotel instead of buying this water bottle. Most of the time, I travel with this 3-liter stainless steel water bottle, and or if I'm going to travel for 5 days or 10 days, I take this filter with me. I filter the water, I drink it. That's it.
I got it. My sister also, who comes from America, does that. That's fine. How do we influence then a policy to change this one-time plastic use in governments? Because that is the most, what is the West already doing that we are not doing in India here? I would like some light on that, so we can influence the policies to be changed from existing.
Actually, yeah, that's a good question. Actually, in Tamil Nadu, there is a ban for it. But still, like if you take my mother, she's 70 years old. When she goes to a shop, and if the person is not giving this plastic bag, she starts fighting with them. Like I have to convince my mother that it's bad for health, it's bad for society, and then she says that you got educated too much, that's why you're talking too much. But this awareness should come from the people, that how it impacts the society. Like now I went to a famous shop called Chennai Silks. They sell different cloth materials. I went there and they were giving plastic bags. I told them that I don't want plastic bag, I want cloth bag. They had cloth bag too. They told them that if someone is asking cloth bag, they are ready to give that. But most of the people are going for this plastic bag. So this awareness, like government can implement everything, but people are not following it. Government is coming for like they put a lot of fine and things like that, but people are not following it. So this awareness should come from the people. Like if I'm not get educated in Sweden, I wonder that I may still use a lot of plastics in my everyday life. Like people in Sweden, they are moving away from plastic because of a lot of awareness that comes from the education. So if we start spreading a lot of awareness about it, people like discard these government policies, people will not start use plastic, because there are, like in India, there are a lot of ways to live without plastics. We can, because we had a way, we followed that. So if we start following that now, it will be easy to follow those things. So we are just, what we need is just awareness, and just we need to dig into our culture, how we live with the plastic. That's it.
Thank
Hello,
you.
sir. Good evening.
Thank
Good
you.
evening. Good evening, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Is my voice audible?
Yes, sir.
Hello. I am Davashmurthy, working as a professor in engineering college.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when we go for any occasion, they are using the plastic plates for distribution of the food. Okay. The food is already in hot condition, then that is used in the plate. So what is the damage that is occurring to a human being who are using the plastic plate for taking the lunch with hot, high temperatures? That is either rice or any sambar or some other dishes, whatever they provide us. So what is the damage? Is it more or same what we use ordinary food without any high temperatures?
Thank you, sir. Actually, it causes a huge damage because, like, if you see the plastics, microplastics is the second thing. Like, if you keep the hot food and plastics, what happens is the harmful chemicals that was used to make this plastics gets leached into the food. That's the most important thing because it causes damage to the endocrine systems. I received some food which was stored in plastic containers. I called those restaurants. I politely told them that I like your food, but please don't pack it in plastic containers. They have aluminum foil to pack. Some people say aluminum foil is also bad. I need to study more about it, but I cannot comment on it right now. I requested them to give in the aluminum containers. Please don't eat food that is stored on plastic. If it is hot and if it's stored in plastic, I suggest not to eat that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And
good evening.
Yes.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, please.
Yeah, Chandan, you are audible.
So I have this query. How about the RO waters or filters that we are using? Those are also made of plastics. And we at home, we do use copper vessels to store water. But what should be the approximate TDS so that we ensure that the minerals and vitamins are, stacked in? Because there's a lot of hard water here where I stay, and the surface also turns white. So we cannot directly consume it from the tap. We need to use filters.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I did a small research on that. I live near Kaveri River. It's just 10 meters from my house, like 50 meters from my house. The TDS of the water is 450. It's pretty high. And then what we did is like we put a filter and then we analyze the TDS. It is 10. It is not good at all. It is again bad. The TDS should be, I think, 50 to 100. So what we did is like we collected the water. Like I said, I stored the water. As soon as the water comes to the plastic container, I immediately collect in the copper vessel or in the glass vessel. We have two vessels in the house. One glass vessel that is for cooking food. The copper vessel is for drinking. So we collected the water. When we transfer the water to a copper vessel, the TDS increased to 17. Usually what we do is we add a small quantity of rock salt to it to increase the TDS, both in the glass vessel and the copper vessel. We do that because the filters, they filter out everything. So that is not good again, because when we drink a water which contains no minerals, it goes to our body and takes minerals. So some people say that it's bad. One of my colleagues said that it's not bad because water is for just hydration. It's nothing to do with it. But when I looked at the mineral waters in Europe, when I looked at this, they said that these type of minerals are present. But in India, we cannot find that. But anyway, having less TDS water, I don't suggest to drink. So add some rock salt to it. It may increase the TDS. That may be good for you. So make sure. One of my colleagues told, he did a research, but I don't have any data. He told me that using Kada bag, that's Kada cloth, may remove microplastics from the water. That's a good one to remove microplastics. If you are going to drink water without filters or anything, use Kada cloth to remove the microplastics. But using filter is mandatory now because we have to remove this high TDS. Otherwise, it may cause some damages to our body. But make sure you increase the TDS by adding rock salt or and transferring it to copper vessels.
Thank you so much.
Kindly repeat, what did you say was the filter? The Kada cloth? Well, I didn't get that.
There is a cloth called Kada cloth.
Kada cloth.
Yes.
That prevents microplastic?
Yes, that may prevent microplastic. I don't have any scientific data to support that, but one of my colleague told me that may prevent microplastics.
I see. So why don't we then have this Kada cloth put into waterways and drainage systems itself to prevent it going into the sea?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, we should work with the government for it, because
Yeah.
like we in our home we can use this Koda cloth for it. The other thing is, like, in the tap you can use Koda cloth to prevent this microplastic leach into the leach into the soil. But the thing is, like, the other question is, like, how we are going to recycle this Koda cloth. Like,
Yeah.
do we have a proper recycling system in India to get it recycled? Because I see that some of the places where they store this like the collected waste, they burn it once in a year. It's again gets into the atmosphere. So it is a big like work. We have to, like, the most important thing is, like, how we recycle it. That's the most important thing.
Okay, so another related question to it was the Singapore government has started from the last maybe 12, 15 years. I saw a documentary on that regarding burning of the plastic. They are a plastic-free country is what they have claimed. So the plastic is going into special areas which are on the edge of the city or outer city. I'm not sure which is the name of the place, but they have these factories or created these sewage treatment in which the plastic is burnt and completely dissolved or reshaped and moved out from the environment. I just need your comment on that.
Yeah. Actually, in Sweden, I was living in a city called Linköping. In that, the municipality, like, they collect waste and they burn it. Some of the waste they burn it. If I'm not wrong, they invested the huge amount of money for the place where the fumes go, because that in the smoke that comes out of the burning, that goes through a big metal containers, and that's the most expensive thing. I think if I'm not wrong, it's 1 billion SEK. Like, I think in Indian currency it is around 5 billion to 7 billion 7 billion INR. It's the most expensive thing in that recycling center, because it absorbs everything. Only the water vapor it goes out of it. That's it. So if they are burning, it's not wrong. I think they would be really sure that they are not releasing any harmful particles into the atmosphere. It would have been absorbed by the system they have. They would have, like, collected and like used it somewhere else. So burning is not a bad thing at all, but how we are going to, like, control this small smoke that's coming out of it, how they are going to collect it, how they are going to remove the harmful particles. That's the most important thing. In India, like I'm living in a city called Trichy. There is a place nearby. They have a huge amount of waste collected. Once in a year, it gets a fire accident. I don't know if it's an accident or something else, but it gets a huge fire and it affects the whole places. Like in Chennai, some of you watched the film Endiran, where they put the robot, they dismantle the robot and they put it in a huge recycling collection yard. If you go there, you can see, like, tons and tons of waste are stored over there. If there is a fire accident, it's going to release huge amount of harmful particles into the atmosphere. So it's again a big issue. But Singapore, they are much developed. I'm damn sure that they would be collecting these harmful particles before it gets emitted into the atmosphere.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, may I ask you one more question, sir? And
please, sir.
Sir, in almost all the colleges, they are going to erect the water tanks.
Sir,
so,
I have a thing. Can you switch on your video, please? Because it becomes a more better interaction. If you could switch on your video.
Okay, just a minute.
So it's okay if you're finding it a bit tricky. You can start with your question.
Okay, madam. Is it visible? Hello.
Yes, sir. Thank you
Yes,
so
sir.
much.
Yes. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. In our college, as I'm working in an engineering college located in Guntur, Andhra Pradesh, we have been using the water that is stored in the topmost floor, above the topmost floor in the deck, and we are storing the purified water by pumping into the tanker. Okay. So because in our Guntur we have extremely high temperatures during the summer, so the tank is not an ordinary cement tank, it is a plastic tank. So it gets heated up automatically, the water gets heated up. So is it any harm to the students who are using, roughly thousands of students are using the same water for drinking purpose, isn't it?
Yes.
And that is one question. Another question is we are using the earlier, when during my childhood, we used the bottles that made up of glass for collecting the milk. But nowadays, because of this transport problem, whatever they may say, the reason, they are using the plastic, bags, okay, polythene bags, whatever it may be. So is it again harmful to the public who are using the milk by using that type of milk packets? So I would like to throw some light on this. Because of extreme high temperatures, our water gets heated up and we are going to drink the same water. Because is it not, is it there that the water again polluted with these micro plastic particles when it is exposed to radiation of hot during summer, very high temperature? Is it true?
Sir, actually, that's an important question to answer.
Yes,
thanks for asking it.
Right.
Actually, I don't take shower like in the middle of the middle of the day during summer, because I'm in an apartment. In that apartment, they store the water in the Syntex plastic tank.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, and it's pretty warm. I even don't take warm shower, like even if it's water is warm. I will definitely drink the water, which is stored in the plastic container, and when it's stored in the topmost deck and if it's warm, definitely it will have an impact. Like I said earlier, before microplastics, we have to worry about the chemicals that is used to manufacture these plastics, because that leaches into the water.
Yes.
So I strongly suggest not to do that, because water should not be stored in a thing like that. Actually, although I'm a scientist, I'm going to give a small research we did. Water is one of the most we couldn't understand the water yet. It's one of the most important thing. Since many of us know that water is like a precious thing, like only liquid that gets the density gets lower when it gets solidified is water. Like if it's the other way around, there won't be any creatures in the world because of the ice age. So water should be treated as equal to the God, because like if you take our brain, 80% of it's water. My friend and myself and my colleague, we all are scientists. I worked in Sweden, my colleague worked in Belgium, and my other colleague worked in Germany. We three of them did a small research. We took 2 cups of water, and both the cups, we put some rice, and then we took one and we spoke to one bottle very loudly and very calm way. To the other cup, we spoke in a very rough way and things like that. The one we spoke to in a very polite manner, the rice didn't get spoiled. The other rice which we spoke in a harsh way, the rice got spoiled. Like I don't have any scientific data to support it, but water has some miracle powers. That's why we use water in all the temples in Islam or Christianity. We use water only. So water should be treated in a proper way. Don't keep the water in a very hot way and don't drink it. So water should be treated as equal to the God. So store it in a very good place and then drink it. It will create a lot of good positive impact on your body. And the other way, like storing water and the plastic, like milk and the plastic pouches, right? So like I said, like there needs to come a lot of studies to analyze how this foods, storing foods on plastic containers, how it affects the health. There needs, we need a lot of studies to analyze that. But until that, my strong suggestion is don't use plastics to store anything. Like before, like we can say that it affects our health, but what are we going to use the plastic after we take the milk out? We're going to put it in the land, right? It's going to affect the other creatures. In end of the day, it's going to affect us. So try to use less plastic right now, but in the later part of life, try to not use plastic at all.
Sir, could you suggest a remedy for us, for our college or one other institution who are keeping the syntax tanks on the top of the last floor, topmost floor, and to reduce the temperature that is being applied to the water when it is stored in that container? Any remedy so that we can reduce the high temperatures and come down to the normal temperature, so that the students may get some sort of benefit, not 100%, maybe a little bit less benefit. Any sort of
usually we store the water on the top of the house because to get more pressure.
Yes.
So that's what we do.
Yes.
Maybe we can use concrete like we did before.
Yes.
So instead of going for these plastics,
Yes.
so people may say that that may be better, I think, instead of using plastics, because plastics may absorb heat much faster.
Yes.
So using concrete may be a better option.
So that is okay, I agree. But already it is erected on the top. Then what is the precaution we can take now? A remedy, immediate remedy.
Yeah, maybe
Instead of
you
going
can.
for the
Yes, maybe you can put a shed, like not going with asbestos. That's again a big carcinogenic thing.
Right.
Maybe go for a like some sheds to prevent to absorb more heat.
Yes. But I saw so many colleges, they are using the syntax tanks above the last floor, and they are storing the water which are being utilized by the students for drinking purpose or some other purpose. But and as you told that there are micro particles of plastic which will affect the human life to the maximum extent drastically. Then I think I may approach the management to take some precautions.
Yes.
Okay, because we have the environmental science as one of the paper for the BTech engineering students, where our co-faculty members are they complete their research work and they are teaching the environmental science. So this is also one of the component of that environment. I will suggest my colleagues also to look into the issue and to suggest some remedy steps to the management, so that all the persons who are taking the water from the per tank for drinking purpose. Okay, sir. Thank you for your
Thank you,
nice
Dr. Murthy.
information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Murthy.
Yes,
I
madam.
think
Thank you.
in the coming days, when we get more awareness, we will stop using those things.
Yes.
Can we take some more questions from the audience? If anyone has any more questions, please unmute yourself. I think I would like to ask one question, Dr. Bala.
Please.
At this point of time, it's winters and most of us are suffering from cold. The only remedy, like most of us use this remedy, is taking steam. So usually the steam bottles which come, these are plastic. And maybe it's simple for adults to have a steel container in which they can take steam. But for kids especially, we take tiny steamers which are made of plastic, and imagine a steam coming out of it that has a lot of high temperature. And what will you suggest in that case? Like how to give that steam to the kids?
You sorry, steam.
Hot steam.
Hot steam. So STEAM. Steam.
Yeah.
Vaporizers.
Vaporizers, right?
Okay, I'm not aware of it. So people they are giving kits for this vaporizers.
Yeah. So these are like tiny square boxes which comes that has a nozzle on top, and we add some water in it, and then a hot steam comes out of it, and kids breathe it for nasal passage clearance.
Okay, wow.
So
It's like a plastic kettle almost.
yes, so
Oh my
yeah,
God.
so Vijaya is showing it.
Yeah, it's this one.
Can you spotlight Vijaya, please?
Okay.
So this is the
Yes. So can you imagine
plastic,
this is like a hot water burning inside this plastic, and we are breathing it, thinking of that it's a steam which is passing a nasal passage. But I'm sure there must be so much of microplastics
Yes.
that is being carried.
Yes, like I said, like microplastics, we, 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 we speak a lot about microplastics. But the other most important thing is like the chemicals that is used to manufacture these plastics, they leach faster into this water. When steam, it's more than 100 degrees Celsius. Like it's very dangerous. Please don't do that. I never saw that. I never used it in my life. Like the kettle that I used to boil water, that's also like still in my house. So we never use that. Like to be honest, I don't even allow my kids to hold the plastics for a long time. Like I don't want my kids to play with plastics. I use wooden toys and things like that. I'm trying like I'm hardly trying to move away from plastics. It's really hard. We made everything plastic now, but I don't use this steam type of things. Yeah, it's really disturbing.
But what will your suggestion will be in that case?
Like my kids get sick. What I do is like I just boil the water, and then like I put some neem leaves or some leaves, and then I just keep it close to them. That's it. I stay close to them. I just keep it, and I ask them to breathe. That's it. Then they just inhale it. I
In a
never.
steel container.
Yeah, still.
Yes, in a
like,
steel container.
Yeah, in a steel container, you make the boiled water, and then you add some neem leaves, or like I use some medicinal leaves, and then I put it for a few minutes, and then I open it, and then I let my kids to breathe in. That's it.
So now what about telephones?
Wow. Yeah, that's what I said. We started.
Computers, telephones, mouse, everything is plastic.
Yes. That's true.
Your speakers, etc., your earphones, when you put those plugs.
Yes.
So now
Something,
where do we
Brinda,
start?
that worries me is the food delivery people. They bring hot food in plastic packages.
I normally don't reorder from such a place. I've had that experience too. I didn't know what Dr. Bala is saying, but I had already had that sense of anti-plastic in many years with me. But since he mentioned that plastic containers, I use right now this basmati rice comes in a plastic bottle of dawat, etc.
Yes.
I thought
Yes.
dry doesn't matter, and until it becomes wet or it leaches into because of heat temperature difference, I just assumed that would be one of the reasons we can avoid. So quickly transfer it onto a glass container, which is what I've been doing from the last almost 15, 20 years. But container caps are all plastic. So glass bottles, I have plastic. So I was very worried when he said the earlier part he started, and I was thinking, oh, okay, it's not bad to, as long as the material doesn't touch the plastic. But we are surrounded. I have a box here right on my study desk with pens here, and my pens are plastic, and my earpiece and computer, everything. So I'm just suddenly concerned, where do we start, and how does the government begin to stop using plastic? And the people who are dependent on this as a daily wage or things, where do we start? How do we transform this whole material into ghade ka ya mitti ka, ya what do we do? Steel, or
Yes.
that's my concern.
Actually, like after I spoke with my colleague, who is a scientist who is working on microplastics now. Like after that only I looked at what are all the ways we started using plastic. Like from morning, like when we start brushing, when we go to take the showers, when you see the plastics, when you see the buckets, it's plastic. So slowly I'm changing as much as possible, like changing the plastic buckets to like copper vessels, which my mother used in my sorry, my generation started using this plastic buckets, but my mother used copper vessels only. Sorry.
Copper, brass, steel. I think steel is very common in the south. My sister lives there. She uses a steel bucket with a steel mug for
Yes.
showering. So
Yes.
steel is okay, I think.
Yes. My mother
But
used only copper vessels for everything, to
I
store
see.
rice, everything. Like if I go to take shower, I can see this buckets, pots made of like clay. So like now in my village, it's very like it's located very interior. Bus goes only once to my village. Even in my village, like I can see lot of plastic waste is contaminated completely. Uh, so what we have to do is like slowly we have to start analyzing in what all the ways we are using plastics. We have to get rid of it. And other ways like Brinda asked, like phone, laptop, everywhere we are using plastic. In for that we cannot move away from that. But the only thing what we can do is like we can minimize usage of this plastic. Like if you buy a high quality laptop, if it stays for like 10 years, then it's really good for the environment. If you're going to buy a cheap laptop, which is maybe 20-25,000, and if you're going to like use it for like a couple of times, yeah, like in 4 years of time, if you're going to like change buy 2 more laptops, then you are going to damage the society. So sometimes we have to pay for the environment, thinking about the other creatures. The laptop that I'm using now, I bought it in 2011. Still now I'm using. My friends tease me like you are using it for a long time. For me, like I compare myself with other creatures in the environment, like elephant, other things. They don't have any phone. Like if I'm going to use the phone for 6 or 7 years, then it's good for me. Like I'm more so sophisticated than other creatures in the world. So try to buy some quality items. Try to use it for a long time. So in that way, you are going to like reduce the waste dumping in the environment.
Yeah, so maybe we can then start off with the kitchen first. Wherever the kitchen, especially the refrigerator, is plastic coated, but interior shelves are plastic. So I'm quite worried that everything plastic is first there more in the kitchen than I can use wooden shelves or steel shelves outside. But what do I do in the kitchen? You know,
Yes.
the
Yes.
coating which we have on the shelf, the Hafele has come up with some drawers. They have some inner piece which is like a rubber, they say, but it feels plasticky. Maybe I don't know what it is. Rubber, how is rubber different, or is rubber better than plastic? I'm not aware of all this information, so I don't know how to go about starting off with a kitchen, you know.
Yes,
Right.
we don't want to get panic. Like we can slowly move away from plastics by changing to glass. I changed it within 3 months, so it's possible you can move away from plastics within a year. Most of the things can be changed to plastics.
Okay, thank you so much for that.
Thank
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions?
I have
Yes,
someone.
I have a question to Dr. Bala. What about Tupperware glass bottles? Are they safe?
I don't want to comment on that. Like
Anything that says that it is made of a material which is similar to Tupperware, that's a trademark, but something similar. It has a plasticky feel, but then like I don't know whether it's different. The material is different and not plastic.
yes, like if when I buy plastics, if even if they say BPA free or anything free, up to me, I want to use I want not to use plastics. So myself, I don't have any scientific data, or I never analyzed Tupperware vessels. So my aim is to move away from anything that looks like plastics. So using glass, copper, stainless steel, that's my aim, and that's what I'm doing. Like so everything, if we want to like look at the effect of anything, like a Tupperware or anything, we have to conduct a long-term study. So the scientists to come up and they have to conduct a study, and there should be a review team, peer review team. They have to come and they have to analyze, and they have a lot of studies come up to analyze the effect of it. So I don't want to be a victim for it. So that we have another way, right? Using stainless steel, copper vessels. We have the things on our hand. The only thing is it's pretty expensive. That's it. I'm ready to pay for it. I don't want to pay for hospitals. So instead of thinking whether it's safe or not, so it's better to move away.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think which have come, there are some messages which have come.
Yes, thank you. And microplastics, how to avoid in daily life? Yes, I think I answered the question earlier. That's what we are discussing so far now. And what about water which is stored in? Yes, Pureit or Kent. What is Kent? I'm sorry.
These are ROs or filters, water filters companies.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I told you. Like, yeah, I have filter. So as soon as I get the water, I shift it to my copper vessels or glass vessels. The next question: everyone store water in homes. Yes, I answered that. How much carbon dioxide is produced in 1 kg plastic production? I'm sorry, Sanjeev, I don't have the data. How much carbon dioxide? I think maybe I will send my email address. Just drop me an email. I can send you the data.
We will share your email in the emailer after the session is.
Sure. I shared my email here, and I will request the team to share my email address to you also.
I think, friends, we are done with the session. And I'm so grateful to Dr. Bala for joining us and enlightening us. I think it is more important that we start wearing anti-plastic goggles, I'll say. That at least we have to start with some tiny steps to motivate ourselves that even if it is written that it is food grade plastic, still we have to avoid it. And we have to switch to an alternative which is friendly to our body and friendly to the ecosystem. Thank you so much, Dr. Bala, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And this video will be now available on YouTube as well from Monday. So I'm sure you can share it with your friends, family, and make them aware about this fact.
Thank you.
We actually need a community that takes care about this fact, that we do not have to use plastic. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bala. We're ending the
Thank you,
session
Sha.
here.
Thank you.